What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for episode 5 of A Man and His Bricks. I do have to apologize. It's been a hot second since the last one. Really, just ever since the last one, I've been really busy with not only Lego stuff, doing 2 mock projects, which we're going to talk about later, but a lot of life changes that we'll probably address a little bit as well. But something really exciting and new for today's episode is I have my first guest, the one and only Mrs. Coconut. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with her, but some of you guys are new and haven't seen her yet. This is my wife. We've been married for a long time now, and she's going to be joining me on the show, and we're just going to be talking and hanging out. I've got some good topics to talk about this episode since it's been so long since the last one has happened. I've got a lot to discuss. First, we're going to be talking about what's been going on behind the scenes, why I started doing 2 mock projects at the same time. It's kind of the first time that's happened, as well as talking about kind of coming down from a growth spurt. I feel like a lot of people talk about like going through struggle, finding success, enjoying success, but what about when that ends, What about when you go back to the struggle? What about when you come down from that mountain? I feel like that's something, important and something I definitely have had a lot of experience with lately. And then, of course, can't bring up Lego this time without talking about the UCS gunship. We're going to be talking about our thoughts and why I didn't buy it. All that being said, it's going to be a really good episode. I'm excited to hang out and talk Lego with you guys and Mrs. Coconut. All that being said, let's roll the intro. So this podcast, for those of you guys who are new to it, is split up into 3 segments. Segment number 1, and the one I start out with, is called Life of an AFOL. Basically, just go into my life, kind of like behind the scenes of the Lego channel, what's going on, kind of my thought processes behind what goes on the channel, as well as just like, things that I've been doing that are somewhat related to Lego. And then segment number 2 is a Q&A series, which still doesn't have a name. It's a themed Q&A series. So every single episode, I give you a theme for the next episode, and then you guys ask me questions based on that theme, and I'll go through and answer, and we have a little bit of a fun discussion there. Last month's theme was a little bit unique because I knew Mrs. Coconut was going to be on, so they're all geared towards her. We'll be going into that in the middle, and then the third and final segment is called YouTubing on a Budget. That's just where I pick one piece of gear, one tool, anything that I have been using or used in the past that I felt like really helped improve my channel and is also really inexpensive, because I want to help out a lot of people who, like myself, for a long time were on a pretty tight and pretty strict budget but still wanted to put out good content. All that being said, time to start out with Life of an AFOL. But before we get into that, I want to ask Mrs. Coconut what it's like being on the podcast for the first time. Excited?
It's exciting, yeah.
Nervous?
Not really nervous, no, but it's fun. I've been wanting to be on it for a while.
Why?
I don't know. I just like podcasts a lot, and I really like Life of an AFOL a lot. It's like probably my favorite series on your channel, just because I like hearing his thoughts. I like hearing more like personal stuff, and I feel like a lot of this channel is kind of a reflection of who you are, and so it's like you're able to talk more about that in depth on the podcast, which I like. So
that is true. I tend to keep my personal life and my channel life very separate. I did that for a long time for a very specific reason, and then as I kind of got bigger, started to gain more of an audience and influence, I realized I wanted people to see what I was like behind the scenes, and I wanted people to be able to connect the problems and the things they were going through with their channel with what I had done and what I had gone through, basically, to help other people, because I felt like, there were a lot of things I did and went through, but they were all, covered behind the scenes, because I really wanted my videos to be about the Lego and not about me. And so this is that one video where I can kind of take a step back from that. All that being said, the first thing I wanted to talk about was why on earth I'm doing 2 mock projects at the same time, because that's pretty crazy. If you were to tell me a year ago that I'd be doing 2 large-scale mock projects at the same time, I would be both excited and nervous. I'd be excited because that would mean I'd have a lot of Lego to build, and nervous because, 2 mock projects, that's a lot of footage to film, that's a lot of like schedules to keep straight, a lot of, pieces to buy. And it was a big decision. It had been one that I was kind of thinking about. And the reason it came about is because, as a lover of analytics and as a person who's always focused on the numbers, I noticed, my mock videos always do the best. The mock building update is always the best video that I get every week, every Sunday. That's kind of where I pull in my main views. My other videos honestly don't do that great. I do have some that do well, but like, my decaling videos, hauls, I'm trying to think of what else I do. Just like random videos that I did that usually, made up the content of my weekly videos, like day-to-day videos. Just didn't do as well as the mock building updates, and they were stressful because I was like, all right, I got to come up with a new idea, got to film a new video. Sometimes they would take a while. Reviews is another one. And they just weren't doing great, and it was really frustrating. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, why don't I just do 2 mocks? Like, it would cut out a bunch of wasted time of me like trying to make videos that just aren't going to do well. I would enjoy it because mock building updates are my favorite kind of video to make, and uploading twice the amount of mock building videos every week is going to help me improve a lot and make those videos better, which, being my best videos that do the best, you would want those to be the best they could be. So I decided, I'd been working on the Acclimator. That was kind of like my side project after Utapau, before Kato Nemoidia, and I was going to finish it and then start Kato Nemoidia. And then I was like, why not just move the Acclimator to Thursdays and then put Kato Nemoidia on Sundays? Now I have 2 top performing videos instead of just 1, and it's been really nice. It's been a lot less stressful because now every week, instead of planning a new video, I'm like, okay, I just got Acclimator Thursday, Kato Nemoidia Sunday. There's 2 streams before each of those. So there's a Wednesday stream before the Thursday Acclimator update, Saturday stream before the Sunday Kato Nemoidia update. So I'm able to, now have content for both streams. There was just so much weight off my chest of like, I don't have to come up with as much content now, and I can just focus on building. The challenge has been the whole schedule, the timetable of it all, because now I'm juggling 2 mock projects at the same time. And I'm kind of someone who I get all invested in one thing. I'm not very good at spreading my motivation and investment over multiple things. So meaning if I'm working on Kato Nemoidia a lot, I really don't want to go take a break and start work on the Acclimator. It's really tough for me to switch between the 2 because I get so invested in one that I'm like, I just want to keep working on this one. But if I spend 3 days working on Kato Nemoidia and I don't have anything for the Acclimator, I'm going to be in trouble come Thursday because Kato Nemoidia doesn't come out till Sunday. So I have 3 more days after that to make even more footage. But then, I got nothing for the Acclimator. So I really had to balance out when I worked on each thing. So basically, Saturday afternoon through Wednesday is Acclimator. Wednesday through Saturday morning, afternoon is Kato Nemoidia. And it's been a pretty nice balance, I think. It seems like I've been able to work things out fairly nicely to where I'm not as stressed for content and stuff, and I'm able to put out good content. Yeah, anything to add to that?
I feel like it's been good. I mean, you're really good at handling multiple things, even though you say you're good at focusing on one thing. I feel like, yeah, it's been super nice, just because before I feel like you were a lot more stressed with trying to get 2 videos a week, and now it's just...
And we tend to do more stuff in the evening together now. I have more time for you.
That's true. There's been a lot more time to hang out together, so it's been nice.
So that's been cool. So probably look to see this as the new norm for my channel. In fact, after Kato Nemoidia, we've got a really cool Bad Batch mock coming up that'll replace that. So stay tuned for more epic mocks to come. And I just feel like I'm much happier now. Instead of being frustrated with videos that weren't doing well, I can now focus more on videos that do better and I'm happier with. So that wraps up that whole thing. That's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. The next thing I wanted to talk about was kind of coming down from the mountain of success, because we all have these times in our life where it's you work hard, you struggle, you endure suffering, and then you reap the rewards of that. You get the success. Take, for example, Utapau. I spent 8 months working on Utapau, weekly updates, streams, long hours, frustrations, setbacks. And at the end result, I had a video that did really well thanks to you guys. Huge shout out to everyone who shared it and supported it. It would not have gone as viral as it did without you guys. And I think I'm already up to 251,000 views on the finale, which is way better than anything I had imagined. And I gained probably 5,000-6,000 subscribers from the growth and from the exposure that I got from Utapau. So that was really nice, and I kind of rode that wave for a while, and it's definitely petered off and started to drop, probably starting last month. So now I've kind of in like this new rut of like, wow, I had all this success and all these views, and now I'm like back to where it was before. And so that can be frustrating because you almost feel like you're doing something wrong, you're doing something bad, just because, you know, all your numbers are dropping. But, you know, you have to remember those numbers were inflated because of that 8 months of work. So now I'm kind of like trying to reset my focus and remember like, hey, this isn't permanent. This doesn't mean your content's bad. This just means that like, all right, now it's time to start working towards, you know, the next finale, the next slingshot that's going to launch me to that next level of growth. So that's been an interesting challenge for me, especially because, you know, I've seen other channels really start to grow and take off, and I'm like, man, what's wrong with my channel? Why am I not, you know, doing the same thing as them? And it's really, you know, caused me to like focus just on my channel and figure out how can you make your videos better. Don't worry about everybody else, what they're doing. They have their own mountains. They're in their, you know, they're at their different process of that whole mountain of success, valley of struggle, graph or process, whatever you want to call it. And so I think I'm starting to come out on the other side of that whole struggle and be kind of happy with where I'm at. And I say happy with where I'm at mentally, not channel-wise. Definitely I'm still hungry. I want to grow. I want to get better. And I definitely am more motivated now to put out better videos so I can get back to that level again. You guys may be wondering like, oh, wow, Mrs. Coconut, she's not even talking that much. Like, why is she even in here? Life of an AFOL. She's not an AFOL. This is kind of like more of a personal reminiscence. She adds to it and stuff, but obviously, you know, this is coming from my mind, the person behind the channel. And so once we get into like the Q&A, I think you'll probably have more to say, huh?
Yeah.
But she definitely has some opinions on this last segment that I want to talk about for Life of an AFOL, and that is the UCS gunship and why I didn't get it. Before I want to get into this, I think I enjoy Mrs. Coconut's perspective on it all, and I kind of want her to share her thoughts on like the whole gunship thing.
On the UCS gunship?
Yeah, the UCS gunship.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool set. Definitely, I guess lately I feel like for Ethan, his motivation, or not his motivation, that's what I'm looking for. His focus has changed to being more on mocks and building and like things that can be used for mocks. So the UCS gunship was kind of like just a big display piece, which we already kind of have a lot of in here.
Do we have a lot of those?
Yeah. And it's pretty expensive, so just I don't know, from what we talked about it and kind of decided that the UCS gunship was like more of a down the road, maybe one day, but not like.
And I want to interject right there and say something, because she brought up something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize. I talk to her about pretty much every purchase I make. Obviously, I don't bore her with the mundane Bricklink orders because A, she doesn't care, and B, she does not understand any of that.
It's a complex process.
Yeah, it's a complex process, and I don't think she really cares. If I bring like, oh, I'm spending $25 on this Bricklink order, it's got pieces for this, 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 and this. When I do tell her, she's kind of like, okay, can I help you with something? But like any kind of big purchase, UCS Star Destroyer, gunship, even like, you know, sand crawlers or stuff like that, I talk to her. I think a lot of people think like, oh, he just goes out and he spends money. I actually don't. I'm very good at, part of the reason she lets me spend the way I do is because of how I am, because I respect our finances and I respect her position in this relationship as like, you know, she has a say in what I get and don't get. So
yeah, and the other thing too that I want to mention, when he was trying to decide if he wanted to buy the UCS gunship or not, it was kind of a hard decision. Like, he went back and forth on it a lot, and when it comes to making bigger purchases, he's always very careful. He considers every angle. He's very like, he can take him a really long time to make a decision because he thinks about every facet of the decision. So I know that he's not going to just go impulsively spend $300 on something that he's going to regret buying. Like, I know he's going to think it through. So.
Yeah, I think I surprised a lot of people by not buying it because, you know, behind Mrs. Coconut, there's 3 gunships. There's a drop ship up there. There's a custom gunship over there. And there's pieces to build another Wolfpack gunship down over there. So I'm kind of, you know, I'm a gunship nut, for lack of a better word. And as soon as I heard there's going to be a UCS gunship, I was like, oh yeah, no brainer. Like, I'm getting that one. And then I started doing the double mock project thing. I quit my job, and that all kind of compounded on the whole budget. And I suddenly did not have as much money to spend on Lego as I used to, and I had to be more conscientious. I had to be more, what's the word? I had to be more thoughtful of where my money was going, because, you know, when you've got weekly, monthly income, $300 is going to be replaced pretty quickly. When you don't, $300 is a much bigger deal. Because, I mean, if you think about it, I could do a lot on Kato Nemoidy and a lot on the Acclimator for $300 or $350 instead of just having a giant white ship sit behind me. Because that's all it is a display piece. I can never put it in mocks. I can't really do anything with it. And I don't really like the minifigures. So it'll definitely be a purchase for me someday. But just looking at it and, you know, finally actually seeing it. Because a lot of times I feel like for Lego sets, there's a lot of hype of like, ooh, this is going to be so cool. But you don't know what it is. It's like a horror movie. The reason the beginning of the horror movie is so scary is because you don't know what exactly the monster looks like. You have that suspense. You have that tension in you of like, oh, what is it? And your imagination, you know, runs wild. And then once you see it, it kind of like solidifies as, oh, this is a scary monster. This is kind of lame. And that's kind of how it was with the gunship. I saw it and I was kind of like, oh yeah, it's just a gunship. Don't get me wrong. It looks incredible. I think they did a really good job of it, but there wasn't enough wow factor for me to be like, yeah, I need that in my collection right now. I'll probably get it someday. Like Mrs. Coconut said, she likes it. And if she likes it, I mean, there's going to be no argument then from her if I want to get it later on. Whereas, you know, with my second UCS Star Destroyer, that took some convincing. Yeah. And I don't think she still understands that whole why I did that, because I don't. But so that's kind of my thoughts on it and kind of like my breakdown as to like why I'm not getting it right now. That wraps up Life of an AFOL. It was a pretty busy, pretty eventful period, and I think, you know, I enjoy this. I enjoy the series. It's nice to kind of get things that are in my head out onto the camera and out to you guys that I don't typically get out there, especially relating to like videos or stuff I do or stuff I don't buy and stuff like that. All that being said, time to move on to segment number 2, and that is the Q&A series. This one is going to be a little bit special. Like I said, all the questions are based for Mrs. Coconut. This happens to her a lot. Basically, every time she's on stream, on one of my streams, it turns into like a quiz Mrs. Coconut on her favorite battalions, what her favorite set is, what she thinks of me buying Lego. And I have the questions here, and I'm going to read them out for her. Huge shout out to everyone who left me a question on the last episode. I really appreciate it. Seriously, there's nothing worse than putting out a Q&A video and nobody leaving questions. You just feel like a loser and you feel lame. So I appreciate you guys helping me not feel as lame and as much of a loser by leaving those questions. All right, first question comes from Jackson Sieg. I hope I pronounced that name. And he says, question for Mrs. Coconut. What is your opinion on Star Wars? That's it.
It's a good question. I don't know. I'm pretty neutral on Star Wars, to be honest. I like it. I think the movies are fun, and like the Lego sets are really cool. I do enjoy the Lego sets. I think they're fun. I'm not like a huge Star Wars fan. Don't really know that much about it, but I have learned a lot since getting married. But yeah, I think Star Wars. I like Star Wars. I'm just not like very knowledgeable on it. So.
You're not super into it.
Not really, no.
All right, next question comes from Brickanics. He says, my question for Mrs. Coconut Bricks is, what makes you the most proud when you see the growth in Coconut stemming from his passion for Lego? Deep question. That
is a deep question. I really like that question because I'm not allowed to brag about him very often.
You're not allowed?
Just kidding. I mean, I don't want to be like annoying, but I'm really proud of him. I am really proud of everything he's accomplished from starting this channel. I want to say like 2 main things. The first thing is just how like consistent he's been. I think that consistency, like if you were to ask him what brought him to success or brought him to where he is now, he would probably say being consistent, or I would say that at least, because I feel like for like almost 2 whole years he did not miss a single week of uploading a video, and he's just been super, like he's just never given himself a break. He's always just worked really hard, and he just understands the importance of that really well, and he's really good at that. It's something that like I struggle with a lot. So I really admire him for being so consistent. And just like, that's the whole reason that he's improved in any way, is because of just being consistent. Like, his mock building has improved. He's more comfortable on camera now, like all of that stuff. And then the other thing that I want to say is just the community that he's built on the channel. I'm like, whenever I'm on a stream or like I read a nice comment or something and I see like how he has affected other people's lives, and like how he's kind of an example and a role model for some younger people who watch the channel, and just other people who enjoy this kind of content but also who have kind of looked up to him. I'm just really proud of him for just being such a good role model for so many people and so many kids who enjoy Lego, and it just like really warms my heart to see the community that has been created because of just him being who he is. So yeah.
If only they knew who I really was.
What does that mean?
Just kidding.
No.
Let's see. Fed Films, the next question, he says, question for Mrs. Coconut. When did Coconut tell you he liked Lego? Did you find it childish or did you not care? She found it incredibly childish. She actually
so
dumped me.
Yeah, I feel like I get asked this a lot just because people are always curious about like what I thought of the Lego hobby. Honestly, I didn't really think much of it, to be honest. Like, I never thought it was a big deal. Like, obviously when we were dating, I've said this before, he wasn't as into Lego, so he didn't have very many sets. He had a few. It
was the tail end of my dark ages. So
yeah.
Really all I had was stuff I had bought as a kid, and they were just like on my shelves.
Yeah.
So like she probably saw like 4 sets maybe.
Yeah, which was like not a big deal. But then after we got married and I started to see more like how much he was enjoying it and he was starting to get more into collecting it, I was just like excited for him. Like, I don't know, because I could see how happy it was making him, and I just wanted him to be able to take advantage of that. Like, I saw he was anyway. So no, I didn't think it was childish. I don't think Lego is childish. I think it's cool. So
plus I'm in a better mood when I get to build Legos.
Yeah, it makes him so much happier. Like, when he started really collecting, like, I saw a really big change in him, and it was really good. So
then I take her out to dinner more and buy her nice things and stuff.
That's the real reason. Yeah.
Win-win. GM Productions, he says, let's see here, where does it start? A question I would like to check. As a question, I would like to check something. My girlfriend rolls her eyes if I get or sound very excited about something Lego related. Of course, she doesn't mean it in a bad way, more of like, that's where the child in you comes out. Way, if you know what I'm saying. Does Mrs. Coconut do this as well?
Do you think I do that?
Oh, every single day.
Do I?
Especially when, I'll bring minifigures with me, and we'll be like at a function, and I'll pop like a clone trooper out of my pocket.
Yeah,
or like definitely. A Tusken Raider or something.
Yeah. Sometimes he's like, oh, but I want to bring my Lego guy with me if we have to go somewhere. And I'm like, okay.
What about when I swoosh my ships around in your face? Do you roll your eyes then?
Sometimes, yeah. But I think it's cute. Like, I don't know, if your girlfriend is like doing it in a way of like an affectionate way, then like, yeah, I relate to that, because I think it's cute. I think it's endearing. But
I would say more than eye rolls, I get kind of like a blank look, especially when I've gone like in depth on like how awesome this Bricklink order was. That I was able to find like orders. I was able to find this piece for this price, and then bundle all these pieces for all these projects together. And I'm like, and then the total was this, and she'll be kind of like, okay.
Sometimes it's just like a very long story, and I'm like, wait, like,
yeah.
I don't always get the nuances of the Bricklink stuff too. But
or if like I show her a really cool technique that like is only cool to me, and she'll be like, but what does it do? I'm like, that's what it does, is it looks like that.
Yeah. I guess like I don't really speak the language of Lego all the time, so I don't really get it as much. But
thank you, GM. That was a good question. Let's see here. Here we go. Question for Mrs. Coconut. This is from the Mighty Brickmaster. He says, if you could pick one Star Wars planet for Mr. Coconut to make a mock of, what would it be? Ooh.
I actually thought of an answer to this question because I didn't really know, but I thought of one, and I wanted the mock that I think would be really cool is Naboo, but in episode 1 when they're in the city and they're like fighting.
Theed? You want me to do Theed?
Yeah. I think that would be cool. And that is my answer.
Why? Why Theed?
Because I just like, I don't know, I like the way it looks. It looks really cool. It's I don't know, I like how it's kind of like an abandoned city vibe, but they're like fighting in the abandoned city. It's just like a cool setting for like a battle scene. I feel like you could do some cool stuff with minifigures.
It is cool. It's definitely on my list. Naboo also happens to be my favorite planet. Let's see. Next question is from Nico Bricks. He says, do you ever feel that Mr. Coconut spends too much time on Lego and not enough time in his personal life? In parentheses, he put, hopefully that is an appropriate question. Yes, that is an appropriate question.
Yeah. I feel like, okay, for one thing, Lego is definitely more than just a hobby for Coconut. And so it's also work. So really what it is it's like a work-life balance, which is always hard, especially when you're like self-employed and you're doing your own sort of stuff from home. So there have definitely been times when I felt like the balance was a little off, you know, like he could be spending some more time in his personal life with me, and like there have definitely been times when he's been way more focused on this, but I feel like lately it's gotten a lot better, and there's like, yeah, it's just phases, goes up and down, but I feel like lately it's been really good with a good balance. I feel like I've been getting better with that, so.
Let's see. This next question is from Something2. He says, do you have any hobbies, interests similar to how Mr. Coconut has Lego YouTube?
Oh, that's a very nice question. I do. I actually started my own YouTube channel at the beginning of this year, and that's where my own lack of consistency really just showed up. Just kidding. I actually was at first pretty good, but then lately it's been different. But I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Pocket of Poetry. I talk about books mostly and writing as well, because I am a writer. I'm also writing a book right now while I'm actually revising it and getting ready to publish it. So yeah, I like to write, read books, and yeah, that's kind of my interests, I guess.
Another one from Something. He says, what is your favorite video Mr. Coconut has ever made? Your favorite one?
It's a hard question. I already said this earlier, but I really, really like the Man and His Bricks podcasts. They're probably my favorite videos.
The ones that don't have anything to do with building.
Yeah, but I also really like the Utapau finale. I just really like the mock finales a lot because it's super cool to see the showcase of everything he's worked for so hard. The Utapau one was really good, so I really like that one.
Final question for the podcast comes from Your Inner Death. He says, Mrs. Coconut, how did you and Mr. Coconut meet? We met at the Lego store, actually.
Yeah, no. The short answer is we sort of, well, I guess I was friends with his family. Our families were friends with each other. We were both kind of in the same circles growing up, although we didn't actually know each other until later. But because he was living in Thailand when I knew his family pretty well, so I didn't know him until he came back. So anyway, we met at a homeschool event because we were both homeschooled. And that is how we met. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I wish you'd been at the Lego store. That would have been fun.
True. But I'd probably be more into Lego if that was the case.
That's true. Well, that wraps up this month's Q&A, or not month, this episode's Q&A segment. Great questions, guys. I really appreciate it. So next month, make sure to pay attention to this theme, because this will be what the questions will be based around for the next episode. And that will be Lego YouTube videos. Basically anything to do with Lego YouTube videos. What are my favorite ones to do? Which ones are the hardest? Which ones do I recommend? How do I go about picking Lego YouTube videos? How do I know and figure out which ones do the best? Anything to do with Lego YouTube videos. Like I say in every episode, the reason I do a themed Q&A is because this podcast is meant to be a little bit more cerebral and a little bit deeper behind mere Lego talk and building techniques, if that makes sense. Kind of the thought processes behind AFOL. So I kind of want these questions to be a little bit deeper than your typical, what's your favorite Lego set? When do you think Lego make another gunship? I like to have a little bit more of something to discuss. And you guys always deliver. I always get such great questions. So appreciate that. And I'm excited to see what you guys leave down below in the comments for today's episode. Last segment for today's episode is going to be YouTubing on a budget. And I decided for this episode, I'm going to be doing the IKEA table. It's got some kind of weird name. I'm going to put a picture of it up on the screen so you guys know what I'm talking about. The reason I picked this table is because I now have 4 of them, and I absolutely love them. As a Lego builder, I am well acquainted with tables, flat surfaces, anything that you can get your hands on to build. and so I've used quite a few different kinds. And so far, this one has been my absolute favorite. And the reason being is it is just very... First, it's very easy to set up, right? It's just a tabletop and 4 legs that screw into the tabletop. You can even unscrew the legs so you can store the table, which is really nice. You don't have to have it out all the time. And they're very strong. They're made out of wood or some kind of like particle board. I don't even know what. Like, I know this one that we're on right now is wood, but those ones over there, I'm not sure what those ones are. But they're pretty light. They're very compact, very durable. They don't bend. They don't sag. I've had plastic ones in the past that sagged and bent, and that messed up my mock. So they're very sturdy in that respect, and they're also pretty cheap. I think these ones, like I said, I'll put the price up again. I probably should have done my research beforehand, but I want to say they're like $30. Okay, yeah. And they're big for how much you get for a $30 table. And you get lots of different color options. This is important because, as I learned the hard way, if you're going to be building a mock that is mostly black, you do not want that sitting on a white table. That's going to mess up the color balance, the brightness of your shot. It's going to make it hard to see the mock. It's going to make the table look like it's glowing. So you have different options. I picked kind of like a light neutral blue. This allows me to film basically any kind of brick on there without having to worry about, the table messing it up, because it's such a neutral color. It doesn't really have much of an impact in the video. So that's going to be today's recommendation. I would highly recommend checking them out. I'll put a link down below in the description. I'll definitely be adding more of those in the future. You don't have any of those, do you? But you do have the shelves.
I do not have the shelves.
You think, are you going to get any of these at any point? Like, is this a table for you?
I mean, maybe like a long way in the future. None of the stuff that I'm doing right now really requires it.
That's true.
I can see using it as like a homeschool table or something one day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm a big IKEA proponent. Love IKEA. I think my last one was the IKEA Ivar shelves. So that wraps up this week, or that wraps up this segment of building on a budget, and wraps up the podcast. I appreciate you guys watching. This one was a fun one to do. I want to start doing these more regularly as I really enjoy them. I would like to have more guests on in the future. Obviously I can't have everybody sitting next to me, but I do have ways to have multiple people on the podcast. So we'll be having more of those in the future. Don't forget to drop your questions based on next episode's theme. And if you like the video, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. And of course, if you have any questions, anything you want to add, feel free to drop them down below in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. But until next time, happy building.
Bye.